Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and you listeners already know how much I love AI. I love talking about AI, and I really love that today's guest's mission goes one step beyond all that because he's on a mission to make AI accessible to literally everyone, and he is part of that solution in a very cool way. So let me introduce you to today's guest. His name is Eshan Chordia. Eshan is the founder and CEO of Impulse AI. He previously started an AI infrastructure company, built the world's most advanced AI-powered wildfire risk model at Zesty AI, and designed Filecoin crypto economics at Protocol Labs. You're probably thinking to yourself, who the heck is this guy and how smart is he? Well, I'm going to add on to that because he graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with degrees in electrical and computer engineering and cognitive science, and I'm so grateful that he's taking all of that brain power as an entrepreneur, as a founder, because his company, Impulse AI, enables anyone to build and use custom AI without knowing how to code. They have a generative chat interface where users can prompt to get the AI that they want, and I know that for all of us as business owners, we're going to learn a lot in today's episode, so I'm excited about this one. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Eshan Chordia. All right, Eshan, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here as well.
Heck yes, I will say you clearly are a very smart guy, Eshan. Your bio definitely sets up some big expectations from us learning from you today. So let's start with you personally. Take us beyond the bio. Who is Eshan? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I hope I live up to my bio, but I got into computers super early in my life, maybe in middle school, started building computers, working with different operating systems, and then took some programming in high school. And then I was always into math and science. And so I then went to Carnegie Mellon, and that's where I got really exposed to the power of computers. I then graduated. I came out to Silicon Valley. I didn't know better. All I knew was that I wanted to go live in California. So I applied to jobs in SoCal and Northern California, moved to the Bay Area, and the rest is history. I worked at a couple companies. One got sold to Workday, and then started my own company. And then I joined Zesty AI, where we built the world's most powerful and accurate wildfire risk model. Did that for 3 years. And then joined Protocol Labs. I'd always been into blockchain and decentralized ecosystems and economies. Was there about a year, and then I started an AI infra company after that. Built that for a while, but realized that trying to make AI accessible to all was more interesting, and so currently working on this.
Yes, I love that. Well, Eshan, I only teased a little bit about what Impulse AI does. You're obviously the expert here, so you've got to introduce it firsthand to our listeners.
Yeah, so Impulse is the last machine learning engineer that you're ever going to hire. So our goal here is to make it very easy for all the subject matter experts and the domain experts that are all around the world, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or an analyst or a designer, to be able to use custom AI in a way that suits your purpose much better than a general LLM or an AI model could ever do.
I want to go deeper there because a lot of people get caught up in these terms because you're talking about different models, and obviously a lot of the mainstream AI talk surrounds ChatGPT. It's the most accessible. It's what so many different people are using. They don't necessarily know, why would I use ChatGPT versus Gemini versus what is a custom model? I think most people haven't even explored that frontier just yet. So what is it that we're talking about with different models? Why do we care about different models, and especially the custom stuff? Why is that something we should pay attention to?
Yeah, great question. So I think the way to think about this is that ChatGPT and Gemini are built on the world's internet data, right? And that makes them really good at tasks such as summarizing documents, creating documents, creating like video generation and things like that. However, when you get into specific tasks like building a risk model, predicting the stock market, creating graphic design for a specific type of designer, etc., those models generally do pretty poorly on it. I try all the tools, I try across the board, and what it turns out that there's specific companies that build AI for every category. Right? There is Canva, there is Gamma for presentation, there is Ideogram for graphics, there is others for audio. And so what we want to do is we realize that like the ChatGPTs and the Geminis, they do certain things well, but you don't know what they do well and what they do poorly. So now with our AI, all you need to do is prompt it in English, right? I want to build a financial forecast model. And we take care of the rest. We will, if you have data, you upload that data. If not, if the data is available on the internet, we'll find it, we'll download it, we'll format it correctly. We will find the right model for it. If the model needs to be we call it training. If the model needs to be custom trained, then we will do that. If not, we will pick you the perfect model for your use case, and then you're able to chat with that model by prompting. And so we're able to take that entire end-to-end use case. And this is super important because AI engineers cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary. But if you're, a clinician, you're a lawyer, you're an analyst, you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on a person, and you might need a team. And so now we're giving the tools of an AI engineer to basically everyone in the world.
Yeah, it's really cool. Especially, I love the analogies, and you illustrating all these niched in AI products makes it clear. Because I mean, in the legal realm, I hear so many lawyers say ChatGPT just doesn't know the things that we do. And of course, ChatGPT is trained on a lot of publicly available legal data, but probably doesn't have the plethora of case study law that law offices have, and they can have their own model. And I think it's so cool that you're making this accessible. Eshan, I've been on your website. I've seen how simple it is to build and deploy custom AI models. I really like your animated example of build a model that generates pictures of the sky at different times of the year, deploy an AI model that is best at summarizing legal documents. Talk to us about what that actually looks like, because it sounds like a big project, and you've talked about how expensive these developers are, but how does it work when we actually use Impulse?
Yeah, absolutely. So great question. So the first thing to know is that you can just imagine like ChatGPT, you prompt it, right? And then you ask it a question, it gives you an answer. For us, it's the same exact thing. So the user experience is super simple. You tell it a problem, give me an AI that shows me different parts of the sky at different times of the year. We have an AI that understands what you want, and then to simplify, we build you an AI and then we package it to you, and then you're able to talk to it, and that's all it does. And that's all you need to do. Now there are examples where, like, say you were like, hey, I want to build an AI that predicts the stock market. We would ask you, okay, do you want, just based on historical data, or would you like, news data as well? Would you like Twitter data? We'll ask you a few questions. And then based on your answers, you might say like, hey, I want historical data combined with like what is happening in the news with momentum and, how people feel like sentiment of what's happening about that specific company or that industry. And then we'll go fetch all of that data and then train the model and then give you a model that can hopefully, predict the stock market. Now, this is just an example, and, we're not giving any financial or legal advice, but you can imagine the power of not having to, of being able to get like specialized AI that does what you need to do.
I thought about this firsthand. I'll give my real life case use here, Eshan, is that once upon a time, I used to create a lot of online courses for entrepreneurship, especially when I was just starting out. I had already grown 2 successful businesses to that point. So I started recording a ton of video content. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know how to build a custom AI model, but I'll just fire up a custom GPT and I'll start training it on all of my content. Of course, the context window was nowhere near close enough, and ChatGPT does love to hallucinate. And so it was definitely not answering the questions in the way that I would serve my audience and the people that I work with. I think having a custom AI model that is specific to my content, specific to my training, it's incredibly powerful. It leads me to ask you this question of where does it live at that point? Because I think that so many of us take for granted where things live these days, how our data is handled, because we upload so many different types of documents. How does Impulse handle that side of the equation?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing is we follow all the best practices of keeping data secure and compliant. And we use, the best of the public clouds, and all of that lives, on Google or Amazon or Microsoft servers. The second thing to know is that at any point, we don't own your data, you own your data, right? So if you want to delete your data, if you want to download it, we are happy for you to do that. And then finally, to answer the question of where the AI lives in our cloud, but we are going to allow customers to bring their own cloud or download the AI on their personal computer so that they can run it themselves. I think this is super important because we're not in the business of taking someone's private data and then trying to build the better ChatGPT, right? We're here to build you the best customized model based on your own data. And so the privacy and security thing is super important to me. And it's super important to me because with AI needs so much data that it can actually know a lot more about you than Google search or Instagram could ever, because you're feeding it so much data to give you the right answer. And we want to make sure that, that data never leaves our servers. If you delete it, it gets deleted. You own it. And then you own the AI that's generated out of the data that you used.
Eshan, hearing you talk this way about AI, it really makes me wonder what goes on in your head in a daily basis, because I would imagine doing so many cool things with AI, not just with Impulse, but obviously you've worked with AI for quite some time now in all of your different roles. It must drive you crazy to see the very basic ways that people are using AI to generate memes and make themselves look like toys inside of Target. These are the things that people are using it for. You must see this world of all the possibilities, and you understand better than most that the technology's already here. What's your role? And I'm curious if it's the messaging and positioning of Impulse or the way that you work with your clients when you onboard them. How are you helping to elevate the way we all think about AI? Because I feel like we're only limited by our imaginations at this point.
Yeah, I think the power of what we're building is that the imagination of our customers is always going to be more than my personal or our team's imagination, right? It's as it is true with Instagram when people upload their own content. You think people are going to do, X, and then they end up doing A through Z. And so I actually think it's cool that people do fun and entertainment stuff with AI. For example, I've seen AI memes or people generating images based in Dragon Ball Z style, right? All of these things are fun because at the end of the day, life is not just 100% work or being productive all the time. It's about having fun, creating relationships, etc. So when I think about what I would, how we onboard customers, our goal is actually to make it very easy for them to use the product so they can actually run wild with their imagination. So if they want to create an AI that creates images in the style of 1980s or 1960s Looney Tune cartoons, they should be able to do that. And if they want to create an AI that helps predict based on certain factors if someone is going to get cancer or not, they should also be able to do that, right? And ideally, if you're able to kind of do both of those things, you're able to we're able to let our own customers run wild with their imaginations, and that's way more powerful than me saying you should use this for just for A and not for B and things like that.
Yeah. All right, Eshan, I guess you're not calling me out then. My 7-year-old nephew, his favorite thing that I've been doing lately is any picture of him on a soccer field for youth soccer, I take it, give it to AI, and I have him be a teammate of Cristiano Ronaldo. And he thinks it's the coolest thing that he's ever seen because obviously it's starting to look more and more realistic. And I think we're entering a really interesting time where, to your point, we can do anything to take pictures and make them look in the style of Dragon Ball Z. You used to have to be a real artist in that domain to make that happen, and you and I now have all these powers at our fingertips. And I will say, as a big time AI consumer, what I appreciate about the world of AI is instead of the product getting better and costs spiraling, it actually seems pretty affordable and pretty accessible. And I've actually found it, just in my very limited API usage, costs actually do come down over time. I hope that's true in the long term. So Eshan, you have way more insights into the costs behind AI and accessibility. What's your take on where we are there? And importantly, where are we headed when it comes to accessibility?
Yeah, I think there's two ways of thinking about this. One is that costs are coming down for consumers for sure. I mean, I think I just read a report in the last year, AI tools have gotten like 10x cheaper. Specifically, inference has gotten 10x cheaper, right? And that's good. Like technology should be doing that. Everything should be getting cheaper due to technology. But also, there's a lot of venture and private equity money flowing in that is subsidizing those costs. So part of what we're able to do is by picking the perfect AI for you, we actually pick based on what you want, if a cheaper AI, a more expensive AI, a more performant AI, or a faster AI. And doing that actually gives you the perfect blend of what you're looking for. And if you are not an AI engineer, you don't know this. You don't know that Gemini is more expensive than Grok in these situations, and using an open source model is cheaper, but it might be not as good, but it might not make a difference, right? These things are not important to people. They only care about how good the product is. So obviously we want AI to keep getting cheaper, and I think AI will keep getting cheaper. And I think eventually we're going to see that you'll basically be able to use AI for as long as you want for $20 a month or $10 a month, and it'll be great.
Yes, absolutely. I'm 100% with you there. That is a beautiful view of the future. And even today, I mean, $20 a month is kind of the going rate for, it seems like, so many different products and services out there, which for a lot of people is accessible. And I love your view of the future, how much more accessible it is. Speaking of which, I want to call you out because I think this is such a brilliant thing that you've done with Impulse. It's a feature I didn't expect inside of Impulse, is that you can also discover AI created by others. And if I create a really cool AI, I can share and monetize my own AI model that I've built through Impulse. Talk to us about that, because I think discoverability, that's how we're going to expand the way that we all view how we can use it, what the potential is, what the powers are. We can iterate. I think as entrepreneurs, we really embrace iteration. Talk to us about how you've built that in and why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think right now the AI industry has been really focused on getting AI in the hands of developers and engineers and scientists. And the reason is that AI, just the way that it's trained on the internet and how programming languages work, it's been a lot easier. And in terms of accessibility, my vision is really to get this in the hands of all creators, right? And all consumers. And so when we think about how do we make it easy for, you to build your own AI, customize it, and then share it with the world, you can make money from that, right? You can be a person who creates customized AI for others. Just like there are people who, who are influencers, they create customized content for others. The reason is that most people in the world would rather use a good AI built by someone else than think through and maybe you don't have the time to, and you don't care about it, or you don't have the data to build like the right customized AI for your use case. So if someone can build the best customized AI for maybe detecting risk and fraud on like credit card statements, or be creating the best AI that creates the best videos for cars, right? Very specific use cases. Then me as a user, like, I don't have to think through how I would do it. I'm like, hey, there's this AI that's been created by a creator that allows me to see the best videos of cars, and then I can go use that. And so my sense is that there will be like 10% of the world will probably be super excited about creating these AIs, and that 90% of the world will be focused on, hey, I want to use these great AIs that are created by these people or these content creators for everyone else.
Yeah, really well said. I want to ask you this question for listeners' benefits, especially if they haven't engaged with a chat-like interface through a product like yours. Probably the closest I've come to that, Eshan, is admittedly, I keep hearing guests talk to me about how amazing Replit is you can build a SaaS product using Replit. So I thought to myself, let me just fire that up. I'm in coffee shops every single day. If I'm not in the podcast studio, I'm working from a coffee shop. And so I thought to myself, why don't I just build Brian's own coffee shop ranker? Because I judge coffee shops on seating, on Wi-Fi speed, on parking, on so many different things that you won't find in Yelp. And so I fired up Replit, told it roughly what I wanted, and then I realized, oh, this entire experience is an iterative process. It's not as easy as just you type one thing and then it magically reads your mind. There's so many elements that you have to iterate, and it really felt like play. It's a playground where you get to play around with that. For people who haven't experienced that iterative chat process, walk us through creating an example use case using Impulse.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. I think the really cool thing about the chat interface is exactly what you said, is that you get to talk to an AI agent and it'll respond to you, and you'll be like, no, I don't really want this. This is not really working. And then after, hopefully only a few iterations, it does what you want it to do. Now, with examples in like V0 and Lovable and Replit, like, it can actually take, one time I wanted to build a website and it took me like 600 prompts, right? So like hours, actually days to like build a fully functioning website. And sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's really bad. Like, it shouldn't take me 600 prompts and days, right? And so as these AI agents get smarter, the amount of time that you need to talk to an AI agent goes down over time. I think this will be very similar to us, as you come in and you might say, again, I'm just going to use this example since I used it before, but I want to know, I want to predict what will be the price of Bitcoin tomorrow. And then the AI might say, okay, do you want a customized model, or do you just want something, based off what's happening on the internet in real time? And you might say customized model. And then the AI agent might say, well, do you care about just the historical price of Bitcoin, or do you also want to tie it? Do you also want to see compared to the rest of the stock market? And you say, well, the price of Bitcoin is generally tied to the stock market, so I'll tie to the stock market. And then the agent will say, like, that's great, like, let me go do this for you. And then a few minutes later, it's built you an AI that can predict the price of Bitcoin. And you might then be like, what will be the price of Bitcoin at 3 p.m. tomorrow? It'll give you an answer. Now, it might not be, hopefully it's a good answer. The more examples that it has to build this customized AI, the better it would be. But imagine the amount of work that needs to get done to do this. Just 5 or 6 prompts gets you what you're looking for. But behind the scenes, if we were building this, 5-10 years ago, we would find all of the data, we would download it, we would pre-process it, we would then train that AI, then we would look at how that AI has done, like evaluate it if it works well, and then if it doesn't, we would repeat this process, and then finally we would deploy this to the cloud, and you have to build out the infrastructure to do that. And now we've taken care of everything. And now all you need to do is ask it to build you that AI.
Yes. Oh, I love the way that you walked us through that, because you identified my exact pain points using Replit. You're right. All in, I ended up sitting there for 10 hours just playing around to create a coffee shop ranker. And I quickly realized it's going to take me 1,000 iterations by the time I'm done with this, because there's so many different considerations. So it's cool to hear that you have those same frustrations. And obviously, you've built a better way of doing it through Impulse. But it leads me to probably my biggest frustration with the Replits of the world. And I'm sure you handle this objection a lot with regards to any model that anyone's looking at. When we talk about costs, it's just hard for us as end users to figure out how many tokens is it going to take? How much am I actually going to use? What's your answer to when people ask you, okay, Eshan, you've sold me. I really want to start creating custom AI models. How much does it cost to actually create a model?
Yeah, great question. So we understand that thinking about tokens and usage is actually pretty difficult, right? You don't actually know how many tokens your request is going to take. And so we're trying to simplify this by just asking people to pay a flat price per month. So for example, you pay $30 per month based on the amount of features that you want, and you're able to do X amount of things. And once you go over, let's say you can create 10 different AIs. Once you've gone over that, then you need to either move up to the next, the next tier, or you can pay like a one-time fee to get access to creating more AI. But we would tell you that, so you know exactly where your money goes.
Yeah, I love that approach. It is definitely way more consumer centric. And listeners, if you're just as excited as I am about using Impulse and you're saying, I want to build my first custom AI model, the good news is that we haven't talked about just yet is that you can actually try Impulse for free. We're going to drop those links in just a minute. I'm going to ask Eshan to point us in the right direction of where we should all go from here, but you can get started for free. But Eshan, before we start dropping links on listeners, I always ask this question at the end of every interview. It's super broad and you can take it in any direction you want, because obviously we geeked out so much today about AI, but you're also one of us. You're also a fellow entrepreneur, and that's why I want to ask you the question of what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both wantrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, what's that one piece of entrepreneurial advice that you want to leave them with today?
I've been through multiple startup accelerators, so I'm just going to give them the advice that they give us, because for me, it's always the best advice. And it's be like extremely proactive and aggressive in talking to your customers and understanding what their pain points are. You don't have to build exactly what they ask for, right? I think there's that famous Henry Ford quote where they're like, if I'd asked my customers, they would have asked for faster horses, and I'm sure I'm messing that up. But if you talk to your customers a lot, or your potential customers, they will share the pain that they're having, and then you can figure out what the solution is for the pain point. And it might be the thing that they're asking for, and it might be like something that they never imagined. So that would be definitely my number one advice.
Yes, I love that. That is 100% my second favorite Henry Ford quote. You did not botch it. You absolutely nailed it. Henry Ford has so many good quotes. My favorite Henry Ford quote is, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And it's such a wealth of knowledge. But Eshan, I think you pulled out so succinctly, and it's really important to reemphasize for our listeners, the important part of that advice is when you listen to your customers, it's not because they're necessarily going to tell you the solution. It's because they're going to tell you their pain. And we as entrepreneurs and innovators, we come up with those solutions, and I am clearly a big fan of the solution that you've come up with, and I'm really excited for listeners to check it out. I teased just a little bit about the free trial that you have on there, so take it away for listeners who do want to check out Impulse AI and start building and being the creators that all of us entrepreneurs are. Where should they go from here? Drop those links on us.
Yeah, they should go to impulselabs.ai. And then you can also just email our email. We've got hello@impulselabs.ai. Reach out and we can chat.
Yes, I love that. I love how much you and your team not only are talking about making these changes and making them more accessible, but you guys have built an incredible tool that I'm excited to become a user of in full transparency. So listeners, I hope all of you also become creators, because the more we use incredible tools like this, the more we expand the way that we treat AI, the way that we interact with AI, the way that we use AI. And ultimately, Eshan, you're such a shining example of the way that we can leverage AI to build a better future for everybody. So super grateful for that. Listeners, definitely check the links out down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Otherwise, Eshan, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.